Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comments. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. So, Matt McMahon is LSU's new basketball coach. He was at the Lady Tiger basketball game, the loss to Ohio State. But he is leaving his post where he had a very successful run at Murray State to be the new LSU men's basketball coach. By now, you know that. We now know the terms of his contract. It is a 7-year deal that will start out at $2.6 million per year, with incentives and escalators that will get him north of $3 million by the time that contract ends. I want to go a little deeper into this. We will in a moment. Matt McMahon, though, they did catch up with him on WPSD television and talked about why he was interested here in taking the LSU job.
Well, LSU, just one of the great brands in all of college sports. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me and my family. And really looking forward to the opportunity to get to Baton Rouge.
I'm not so sure that I would say it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but clearly Matt McMahon, who also had interest from South Carolina, passed on the Gamecocks, who fired Frank Martin, to take the LSU job. And when you look at this contract, it becomes clear as to why he was willing to take this job. One more here from Matt McMahon on WPSD television, what his goals are at LSU.
I want to help max out young people, help them become the best player they can be. Obviously want them to get a world-class education at LSU and want to help them become the best player they're capable of being so they can go on and be pros. And then ultimately, the goal is to win championships at the highest level. And I know we're going to be able to do that at LSU.
So LSU's got their guy. We did, if you were here the Monday after LSU fired Will Wade, Matt McMahon was one of 3 names I gave you. And it was pretty clear. Scott Woodward had his very, very short list that he would sort of shoot for the moon. Scott Drew, Tony Bennett, the 2 names of proven championship-winning head coaches who have ties to Baton Rouge. You made that call. You kicked those tires. There was no interest, understandably. So it was on to the next. And I told you Matt McMahon from the beginning was a name of great interest, and Scott Woodward had his list. There's no doubt he had his list because he knew that once they parted ways with Will Wade, he was going to act quickly, and once Murray State lost in the tournament after beating San Francisco in the opening round, the coast was clear to go ahead and make this deal, and they did. So some of the interesting parts of this contract are, and let me back up a smidge. Here's the context. Matt McMahon is 43 years old, was making $500,000 a year at Murray State. It's a great living. To live in Murray, Kentucky, and to be making $500,000 a year, don't lose sight of that. That is an amazing opportunity. But if we're standing back and saying, why would somebody want this LSU job? When you know what's coming, sanctions are coming. There are 10 schools now that have received a notice of allegations with regard to the FBI investigation into college basketball and pay for play. Okay? Only one so far, Oklahoma State, has received their penalties. They had a 1-year postseason ban, 3 years probation, and scholarship restrictions. Understand that is the minimum of what LSU is going to get. A 1-year postseason ban, 3 years of probation, scholarship reductions. Like, you are at least getting that. So if you're a coach at another school, why would you be interested in the LSU job knowing that is coming? Knowing your current roster is going to defect, you're going to lose because you're going to get hit with sanctions, and guys are going to transfer. You've already lost 2 members of this signing class. Like, it's going to get bad before it gets good again. So why would you want this job? There's 2 reasons. It's time and it's money, and LSU is willing to give Matt McMahon both. It's a 7-year deal. 7-year deal that includes an additional year if LSU gets hit with sanctions. So his 7-year contract actually becomes an 8-year contract when the penalties come. They're basically committing almost a decade to this man. And his buyout is 80% of his remaining contract. So they're saying, we are financially committed to you. We know that this is not going to be fun for a hot minute, but we believe you're the guy, and we're committing to you in length and money. Not only the 7 years, but it starts at $2.6 million with a $100,000 escalator each year, which would get him up to $3.2 million. And when his contract becomes final, he gets $400,000, boom, on top. So he basically, whenever his contract is done, they're giving him $400,000, which is what he made last year at Murray State. Almost what he made last year at Murray State. And then his contract on top of it. And he gets a vehicle allowance and a lot of other stuff, moving expenses, all these other nice little perks that are in his contract. But basically, they went to this dude who was making $500K in Murray, Kentucky, and felt like he was on top of the world and said, hey, you know what? We're going to give you 5X that number. You interested? Okay. So he took it. He was smart, too. And also, it's very obvious. If you're Matt McMahon or if you're any coach, you look at LSU right now and you realize that you have the support of the administration. Is that fair to say? Like, Scott Woodward is bombarding his athletic department with resources right now, from coaching salaries and support staff pay and recruiting budget and facilities. Like, he knows which trees to shake to get the funds to get done what he needs to get done. And he's getting it done. That is undeniable. That is another major part as to why coaches want to come here to work for Scott Woodward. When I look at the Matt McMahon hire on the floor, I think there's some pros, there's some cons. The pros, he's been a successful head coach. He's won 70% of his games at Murray State. He has made 3 NCAA tournaments. 4 of his players have gone on to the NBA, most notably Ja Morant. He's got an eye for talent. When you can go find a guy like Ja Morant and turn him into what he's become. He had interest in other major schools. I mentioned South Carolina already. And albeit in the past, he does have SEC experience. He was a GA for 2 seasons at Tennessee in the early 2000s, from 2000 to 2002. His career, though, has been rooted in southern states, at Appalachian State, at UNC Wilmington, mentioned Tennessee, at Murray State as well. So he has been in this region of the country, AAU circuit, recruiting, all of that sort of stuff. He's been here. So with that respect, it makes sense. The cons are he's never won at a major college. And there are plenty of examples of mid-major coaches that make the jump, and it works. Nate Oates goes from Buffalo to Alabama. He's done well there. Brad Underwood went from Stephen F. Austin to Oklahoma State, now at Illinois, has them in their first Sweet 16 since the year 2005. Billy Donovan, right? Went from Providence to Florida, was the greatest coach they ever had there, won a couple of national titles. There are also examples, though, of it not working out. Donnie Tyndall going from Southern Miss to Tennessee, and we know what happened there. Mark Fox is a guy who was at Nevada, did really well, got the job at Georgia, and look what happened. There's 2 sides of that coin. The other thing that's fair to point out is when you look at Murray State, their basketball program, when I look at it, it's almost like what Boise State's become in football. It's like the preeminent mid-major, and especially when you look at their lineage of coaches. When you go back and you look at the lineage of coaches at Boise State, starting all the way back with Houston Nutt and Dan Hawkins and Chris Peterson, like, they've churned out really good coaches there because the program's stable and they've had a good eye for coaching talent and what they're looking for and to build it. Well, Mark Gottfried was at Murray State. There was one coach in between Gottfried and Mick Cronin, but Cronin's now at UCLA. Billy Kennedy went from Murray State to A&M and then to Kentucky. Steve Prom, who had a great run at Murray State, didn't work out at Iowa State, but Prom was there, and now Matt McMahon. So when you look at the last 6 coaches, Gottfried won 3 conference titles, had 2 tournament appearances. That was 95 to 98. Anderson was there from 98 to 03, 2 conference tournament championships, 2 conference titles, 2 NCAA tournament appearances. Cronin won 1 conference title, went to the dance twice. Billy Kennedy won the conference twice, went to the dance once. Prom won the conference 4 times, only went to the dance 1 time. And Matt McMahon won the conference 4 times and went 3 times to the NCAA tournament. So of all those coaches, he's had the most success, but he also inherited the best situation. So is it a situation where he's a product of Murray State and a really stable mid-major, or did he continue to elevate that program? It kind of does feel like when Scott Woodward hired Chris Peterson away from Boise State. I'm not saying that McMahon had that level of success, or was that sought after. But remember, Peterson was the guy at the really stable mid-major who teams had tried to pluck away, and he went and got that guy out of there. Here's the deal with McMahon. He's at the really stable mid-major where other coaches before him had come and gone on to bigger jobs, and he's just the next in that line. But Scott Woodward and LSU, for better or worse, they are committed to Matt McMahon for the next 8 years. 7, but very likely 8. So, because we all assume sanctions are coming. He has an uphill climb. It is going to get worse before it gets better. That is undeniable. You are going to lose recruits. You are going to lose almost everybody on this entire roster. I don't know who will want to come play here next year for the next few years while sanctions are levied. But if you weather that storm and you really believe you have a bright young basketball coach who knows how to recruit, knows how to develop talent, knows how to coach in the South, can be the guy that's here for a decade and wins you a lot of games and hopefully get you into national championship contention. That's the hope here with Matt McMahon, and LSU is financially committed to making sure that he is that guy. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.